Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
Chris, what are we going to be reading next month? I have no idea whatsoever, so I'm kind of nervous.
Well, I decided that I wanted to do a TARDIS crew that we've not done a novel of before.
Okay.
I also wanted to do a female author.
Okay.
And I also, as well, wanted to do one set in history. And one of my comfort foods is kind of like ancient Rome. So we're doing Stone Rose.
Oh! Wow.
And now our story continues.
Adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London.
Chris, how's it going?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a little bit overcast. How's it going? How are you? Has Minnesota melted yet?
It has. It's rainy, and we had one last big snowstorm at the end of April, which I guess is now the norm. So, yay, climate change. So unpredictable.
I always talk about the weather, don't I? Whenever you say how's it going? Very British me, yes. I've got a bowler hat and an umbrella. Yeah, we're recording this the day before the London Marathon. So regular listeners may recall last year I saw a Dalek run past. I gave the Dalek an enormous cheer when I was helping volunteer, so I am wondering what Doctor Who themes I need to. And also, on this minor digression, there's a 5k run that I regularly do that next week is, because it's May the 4th, and it's because it's their 400th edition of the run, they're doing a science fiction fancy dress. And someone came up to me and said, "You're doing Time Lords, aren't you?" Yeah, I guess I am. Yes. So I'll probably be wearing my fourth Doctor Tom Baker costume t-shirt, I suspect.
Cool. If you're going to be outside all day, it's better to be in that, I think, than like a more elaborate sort of...
Yes. Running around in a Cyberman costume or something. Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So at the back end of May, I'm going to be volunteering at the Cricket World Cup.
Oh.
So yeah, I don't think they're going to let me kind of like stick any kind of like Doctor Who badge or anything on, which is a shame. I'm going to be at the Oval rather than Lords, and kind of Lords is the one with the Doctor Who connections, and that Lords is where the TARDIS appears during the middle of the Dalek master plan, and it's also where the cricket men do their thing. It's Lords certainly is what Douglas Adams used in when he rehashed the cricket men idea for Life Universe and everything.
So this month we are reading The Stone Rose by Jacqueline Rayner. But before we get to that, Chris, what do you have for show and tell for us?
So show and tell is going to be Bookworm. Which actually you brought to my attention. It was excellent book by Robert Smith, ? And I've forgotten the name of the other author. Is it Anthony Wilson, possibly? But yeah, it is an analysis of all of the new adventures. And to say it's done in a discontinuity guide style, I think might actually be doing it a bit of a short service, because it goes into, I think, a lot more analysis of the discontinuity guide. And there's lots of interesting new information, as well as their opinions. Sometimes they go with perceived fan wisdom, and there are other times where they might praise a book where you're kind of like, oh, that's interesting. So there's some books that I'm kind of like looking at in new lights.
And it covers the entire. So it's just
it's just the new adventures. Yes, yeah.
Are they planning on doing like the missing?
Depending on sales, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool.
They start with Remembrance of the Daleks because they feel that that's kind of like the beginning point. And that's an argument that you can understand. So
it's formatted. It's got like all the sections like you'd find like in a typical episode guide.
Yeah, so they also have a section called Wibbly Wobbly, which is, in what extent has the new series ripped off this book? And there's quite a few books where you go, oh yeah,
or inspired by, or very cool.
And they also have a section called Worth eBaying. It's a very interesting read. I heartily recommend it if you have any interest in new adventures. I think the only thing would be that you might run the risk of suddenly kind of going, oh, I need to go and buy this and that, etc. And because some of these books are not cheap, but it's made me want to dig out my copy of Parasite. Which
Jim Mortimer's, that's right.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. So it's worth your reading. And also, I mean, I've found that Robert Smith's stuff is always very interesting. And do you know that Robert Smith, the question mark is legally part of his name?
I do. I've met Robert several times. He's been to Council Room, and it's. I almost think of it as like an Australian accent, because
he is Australian.
No, he's Canadian.
He's born in Australia.
Oh,
yeah.
No, I was saying about the Australian thing. It seems like in an Australian accent they always end on an inflection, or
yes,
the accent goes up at the end.
That's very good. Yes, yeah.
I watched a lot of Australian Big Brother back in the day.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Of all of the Australian export that you could have been consuming, Big Brother.
And Farscape, so
yes,
there's at least that.
Yeah, fair enough. Which is filmed outside my wife's hometown. Right, anyways, sorry, enough of that rambling. So what have you got for show and tell, Matt?
So for my show and tell this month, I want to talk about Doctor Who Tavern. And not the famous one in London that meets at the Fitzroy, but the Minneapolis homage to that. So it's been going pretty steadily for over a decade, if not longer, and kind of rotates around the Twin Cities as different things are under construction or have a falling out with some of the proprietors.
Really?
No. Example.
Yes, fair enough. Yeah.
Reasons for moving it, but
yes,
yeah, it's fun, and it's just a regular kind of steady group of folks that get together. So yeah, I could list everyone's names: the two Jeffs, Ben, Robert, Bill, Elijah, Michael. Several folks who are involved in Council Room also participate regularly. So it's just a fun get together to either talk about the show if it's on the air, or the off season, so to speak. Talk about other stuff, other sci-fi interests, and yeah, it's just kind of a fun get together. So if you don't have one in your area, start one.
Yeah.
Have Doctor Who taverns all around the world. It'd be fun.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So this month we're reading The Stone Rose by Jacqueline Rayner. It's a 10th Doctor Rose and Mickey book. Now, Jacqueline Rayner, we've read at least one short trip by her. I'm trying to remember if she had stories in either the River Song or Story of Martha anthologies we've read, but I know we've read something by her previously.
Yes, I'm trying to remember as well. I'm looking at this list. I'm not at all sure, but we definitely have.
I know she did a lot of the early Benny adaptations of Virgin books for Big Finish, and I think her first novel was in 2001 with the 8th Doctor novel Earthworld for BBC Books, and then the Benny novel The Squire's Crystal for Big Finish.
Mm-hmm. She's also done a fair few Doctor Who Big Finish audio plays. I think one particular highlight is probably Doctor Who and the Pirates. Or The Last That Lost a Sailor, to give it its full name. The Marian Conspiracy, which is really good as well. Both of those are 6th Doctor ones. And I can thoroughly recommend. Different styles, but very, very good.
Mm-hmm. And this book was first published in hardcover in April of 2006, alongside The Feast of the Drowned and The Resurrection Casket. And that was back when the BBC were releasing, the books in batches of 3 at a time. And prior to this, there had been 6 Eccleston books, including Winner Takes All, also by Jacqueline Rayner. And so The Stone Rose was republished in 2015 in paperback by the BBC as part of their history collection. Which version of the book did you read? I read the original hardcover, so if there was like a new forward or something in the history collection, I didn't get that.
I read the Kindle version, which I don't think had a new foreword, not that I recognise. So it has the cover that doesn't have Rose on it. Presumably the rights of Billie Piper's image had expired. So it's a bit unfortunate having Rose in the title, but yeah, not on the cover. And you just have a generic picture of David Tennant, not even in a toga, which will become relevant.
In the hardcover version, it has the book numbering on the spine. So this is considered book number 7 in the range, and the spine, I think we've talked about this before, the numbering system is in Gallifreyan. So you have to look up the corresponding chapter title, which has the number image behind it, to find out which number it matches to.
Right, yes. They don't do this on Kindle.
This is considered the first 10th Doctor book, so not counting quick reads, which started getting published a month earlier, of which Jacqueline Rayner also wrote 2, one each for the 10th and 11th Doctors. And this book was released only 2 days before David Tennant's first series of Doctor Who started. And then an abridged version was also released on CD, read by David Tennant, which came out about 4 months after the book was published. And also included with that was a bonus interview, a 15-minute feature with Jacqueline Rayner was interviewed by David Darlington. So I had to listen to that. And then I think you mentioned this last month, Chris, the Radio Times gave away a free copy of that on CD in 2 parts over 2 issues. So there's quite a few
copies,
versions of this floating around.
Yes, yeah. It is one of these things that in British libraries and charity shops, it is not a big surprise to see a copy of Stone Rose. I've got no idea what the biggest selling of the new series books is, but I do wonder if this might be the one with the most copies in circulation.
I think that's a pretty accurate hypothesis, yeah.
If you read Bookworm, you will find out which was the best-selling new adventure. And it's a surprise. Yeah.
I think Who Killed Kennedy had the most in circulation, I want to say.
Yeah.
But that's not considered part of the...
No.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
One other thing I noticed in The Stone Rose in the acknowledgments is that Helen Rayner is listed as a consulting editor, and I wonder if this was commissioned before Gary Russell had his brand manager role from like 2006 to 2010, because Helen's job duties, as they're kind of described in the acknowledgments, is very similar to the job that Gary and then later Edward Russell had on the series. So basically reading any proposed tie-in media, books, audios, or comics for potential conflicts with either older Doctor Who stories or upcoming planned TV storylines. So makes me wonder, I guess.
Yeah.
It's interesting kind of the setting of this. Different wiki articles say that it takes place in the gap between the Christmas invasion and New Earth, but I don't think that's entirely accurate, because there's moments in this book where Rose remembers talking cats and Petrofold regression, which that would have aired, the same week that this book was released in stores, New Earth. So for me, I think it has to be set after New Earth. And the Doctor also mentions a recent encounter with werewolves, so I would even set this after Tooth and Claw, which hadn't aired yet at the time.
Yeah.
And the book has a brief prologue and then 18 chapters, and it opens in a location that I've been to, the British Museum.
Yeah.
Not the Natural History Museum, which another wiki says is the setting for this place, which is a separate place. So just so you folks know, sometimes the online recaps are wrong.
Yeah, it's a totally different part of town. But yeah, a friend of mine works at the British Museum, and about 2 to 3 days ago, nearly got locked in overnight.
Like a night at the museum sort of
yes,
scenario.
Yeah, in the Egyptian section, I think, of all the sections. That is not the one. Certainly I wouldn't want to be spending... Yeah, I don't believe that the mummies will start appearing and everything, but I've seen so many films, I was like, yeah.
The beginning, the Doctor's in the Egyptian gallery, and it says he's examining the Rosetta Stone. However, when I visited the British Museum like 3 years after this was set, I thought the Rosetta Stone was right at the museum entrance, and it was like the first thing you see, and it's not in a separate gallery unless like one is just a replica or something.
Certainly the last time I went, it was in the Egyptian gallery. I mean, and maybe they might move it around. I mean, the first time I went, there wasn't any shield. I was there with a mate of mine, and we were shocked. There were these little kids just touching the thing. It was like, yeah, don't break it. don't get your mucky little prints on it. Don't drop ice cream on it. Just
So I wonder if like there might be two, and like if one is one that you can touch and one is
no,
it's just out there.
yeah.
One other thing I would just mention with the setting is keep in mind that it's not contemporaneous with Rose was missing for a year, so all of her stories are set a year after they aired, so this would be set in the near future of 2007. And I guess we'll leave it open as to whether this is a pure pseudo-historical and answer that question later.
Yeah, let's not go into that bag of worms. Yes.
Yeah. So, shall we?
Yeah, let's start. So Mickey's been doing he's been doing a little bit of kind of good work with kind of like local school groups and stuff, and so he's been spending time in the British Museum. And following this, he brings the Doctor and Rose along at the museum, and Jackie for reasons. And,
David Tennant's impersonation of Jackie is hilarious. I might have to throw that in as an Easter egg or something.
Yeah, please. And they go to the Roman gallery, where Mickey sees, shows them this thing that he's found, a statue that appears to be of Rose, posing as the goddess Fortuna. And the statue is about 2,000 years ago, and it's got the same earrings that Rose is wearing. And also, as well, one of the statues had a little bit of wear and tear, and one of its hands is missing, kind of broken off at the wrist. But yeah, it was nice to say, oh, Mickey's been helping with local groups. It was like, yeah, but he could also, I don't know, it did seem a bit strange that he needed to have had an excuse to go to the British Museum. But
yeah, he could have just gone to go.
Yeah, but also I don't know to what extent it's in character. But anyway, it's a good hook, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's a good hook.
So when the statue's described and the wrist is broken, the illustration on the cover of at least the original hardcover version has, a picture of the statue, but both its hands are intact. So that was that immediately kind of got my hackles up, and I'm like, okay, is that going to be a plot point, or is it a mistake in the narrative? Like, what's going on here? So,
well, reading Bookworm has reminded me how much there's a long history of Doctor Who cover artists just randomly drawing anything that doesn't necessarily depict what happens in the book with any degree of accuracy, or particularly with the New Adventures, anything that looks like art either. From time to time, some of those covers are awful. Anyway, right? Shall we resume?
Yeah. So sometime later, the TARDIS lands in ancient Rome, and Rose, she's wearing like a Roman dress that she found in the TARDIS, and the Doctor, as you mentioned, he's now in a like a genuine toga. Kind of wondered if he's wearing Ian's toga from the Romans.
I have a Rome story, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah. It's one of these things where I'm not sure whether or not you would feel that it's necessarily appropriate. Yeah, so I've been lucky enough to kind of go to Rome a few times, and one time I decided, having been there for kind of like a couple of days or so at a time, I wanted to go for a week, and I wanted to go for a nice quiet time. So I chose like 2 weeks after Easter, because I thought there wouldn't be so many people there. So I managed to choose the week that John Paul II died.
Oh, no.
So, fortunately, I'd got my accommodation all sorted, which was good. There was a lying in state, which you'd expect, and because I'm not Catholic, but I thought it would be an interesting experience. And I thought also as well, I'd do it overnight so that it wouldn't be quite so hot and everything. But I didn't realise that they shut it down for like 2 to 3 hours to kind of go cleaning in the cathedral. But anyway, so I joined this queue, and it all going very well. There were pizza delivery boys going up and down the queue, keeping people going. And so about 5 hours in, yes, 5 hours in to the queue.
And it's not even a Disney ride.
No, it's not even a Disney ride, no. But it's it's to see history, isn't it?
True,
yeah. So I'd been chatting to this guy who was a funeral addict who'd been to the Queen Mum's funeral over here. He was planning to go off to the funeral for the Prince of Monaco, who'd passed away around about that time, and he'd come down from the Netherlands just to experience this. And I was enjoying this because I can speak in English to someone, because my Italian is not that great. And unfortunately, every now and again the queue would spasm, and you would lose sight of who you were talking to. And there was this guy that was in front of me suddenly now, and he was chatting with this woman who I kind of assumed was his wife, and he had his hand behind him. And then I realised he was trying to grab me.
What?
Yes. Not by the hand. And so we did this intricate dance where he'd be trying to grab me, I'd be trying to kind of stop him. And also I kind of thought, if I create a scene here, the police, who are they more likely to believe? Mm-hmm. The British guy or the local? I've now been in this queue for about 6 hours.
Oh no.
So yeah,
you were trying to avoid assault.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah. So the next time the queue moved, I was pushing as fast as I can to get to the side to kind of get away from this chap. And also by this point, I was starting to hallucinate. And they had a big screen of everything that was happening inside St. Peter's, which was not a lot, but it had rolling subtitles because obviously there were prayers happening in Latin, and I was seeing names of my colleagues on the subtitles. I thought, this is not good. I'm not in a good way. They were handing out sugar packets, which I started mainlining, as well as bottles of natural fizzy water. It was the most disgusting thing. Yeah, I had been told by someone who'd been in the queue the day before that if you shake it a lot, it's almost palatable. But yeah. So that's my Rome story. The day I went to the Pope's Lion State and got a bit more than I bargained for.
Did you make it to the?
Yes, yeah, I got in. The queue took me 11 hours all told.
Wow.
Yeah. I also realised there was a particular reason why they were showing his body from one particular camera angle. Because on the other side, the embalmment process had not gone well. Ooh. And unfortunately, I'd picked the wrong side. So, yeah. I can say that it was an interesting experience. There were people there that had kind of come from all over the world. At times it was quite moving, even if I couldn't understand some of the things. But people were singing hymns, and it was an interesting experience. If I'm ever in Rome again when a pope dies, I don't think I'll bother. I think I've done it once. It's also the only Lion State I've ever been to. I don't think I'm in a big hurry to attend any others. So,
unlike your Netherlands.
Yeah, I don't quite see the appeal of going to Tanzania. But anyways, yeah. So this is my Rome cautionary tale.
Yeah, interesting.
Yes.
Well, that could be your show and tell, I guess.
Yeah, I have dined out on that story. I do have friends of mine who say, Chris, tell us the Pope story. But, yes. Anyway.
Okay.
Right.
I'm starting to feel delirious. It's like, where do I go from there?
Anyway.
So sometime later, they step outside and they're kind of in a Roman street, and it's very muddy and not what Rose imagined like Rome to be. And they spring into action when they see an old man being mugged on the street. And this is Gracilis, who he's come to Rome to look for his son.
Optatus?
Optatus, yeah, has gone missing.
So Gracilis decides to consult a local oracle who's predicted the future with a lot of accuracy, including predicting the fall of the Roman Empire. And the oracle is this young woman called Vanessa, who's a slave. And she's also scribbling down kind of like numbers, which intrigues the doctor. And Rose realises that Vanessa's bluffing for time and seemingly simply scrolling down the numbers in an attempt to think of something to say. And Vanessa is kind of talking about Hadrian's Wall, which hasn't been built. So Jacqueline Rayner has got a background in ancient history. I don't know whether she had a degree in ancient history, but she certainly knows her stuff from as much as I can tell, because like I studied classics at school, but not to degree level. But certainly, you just look and you go, she knows what she's talking about. Particularly as events unfold.
She mentioned in her interview that with the audio that she was really drawn to the domestic setting, so she wanted to open the book with Rose and her family, and she really loved that Rose had those touch points. This is still very new into New Who, so that was very much a thing that classic companions we didn't really deal with, except maybe like Ace a little bit and maybe Nyssa and Turlo. So then Gracilis convinces, so Vanessa is a slave, and he convinces her owner to sell her to him for a lot of money because she's locally famous as an oracle, so that's a lot of income for her previous owner. And you get some good, reaction from Rose as to how abhorrent, just the whole idea of slavery is, and seeing it being experienced in the narrative. And so they take Vanessa to Gracilis' villa in a horse and cart, and his home is kind of an estate outside Rome that takes a few days to reach. And during the journey, Rose tries to get to know Vanessa a little bit, and she learns that Vanessa's 16 years old. And then when she asks her how she got into or interested in astrology, the girl starts to cry, and both her and the doctor are wondering what's got her so frightened. And the doctor's calculated the date as 120 AD, which is the same time period that the statue in the British Museum is from, the one that's modeled on Rose.
It means the TARDIS has landed in an accurate kind of fashion, which is helpful for the narrative. But yes. So once they arrive at the villa, Gracilis introduces them to Ursus, a master sculptor who is very secretive, and he unveils a statue of the missing Optatus, which looks remarkably lifelike, but it's also painted in kind of gaudy colours, which was the custom during the era, and the paint has long worn off surviving statues in museums today, which again is accurate. It's one of these things that if you're watching, I can't remember whether Gladiator does this, but certainly there have been times where if you're watching stuff in Rome and you're just going to go, yeah, no, it's not always just in just plain white, and the Colosseum wouldn't have looked like that, etc. Yeah, I do have to make a conscious decision to kind of like leave my history geekery to one side. Let's just enjoy it. And whereas here, it's educational and entertaining. Sidney Newman would be proud.
Would be proud, yeah.
Yes.
And like you were saying, Jacqueline Rayner is, pulling in her love of Roman history, and there's a lot of parallels with today's world, she said, but, a lot of differences as well.
And also, one thing as well that I've appreciated is the names. Because if you remember David Tennant's visit to Pompeii that happens a little bit further on in the TV series, quite a few of the characters in that, so Caecilius, etc., their names are taken from a Latin course that was often used in UK schools. So Caecilius Jucundus, which was Peter Capaldi's character, you can actually go and visit his house in Pompeii in real life, the ruins of his house.
Oh, wow.
And I think, isn't there a chef called Grumio?
In the episode?
In the episode, yeah, because there definitely is a chef called Grumio in the Latin course. And yeah, anyway, there are quite a few names that are recycled for that script. And here, I don't know where Jacqueline Rayner's got these names from, but it's not snapping me out of it in quite the same way. Where it's like, yeah, no, I know all of these people. I studied them at school. But anyways, right, so back to the narrative. When the Doctor and Rose are kind of alone with Ursus, the sculptor, they ask him about his work. But again, he's not telling much, and he doesn't even allow them to visit his workshop. He also denies knowing much about Optatus before taking the opportunity to ask Rose to pose for a statue of a goddess he's due to start work on. What could be going on?
Intriguing.
Yes.
So Rose then speaks more with Vanessa, where she gets Vanessa to admit that her visions are made up and that she hasn't got a home. And before Rose can learn more, the Doctor joins them, and Vanessa kind of clams up, and the Doctor explains that Optatus was last seen visiting Ursus's studio when the statue was still in the planning stages, but when the boy disappeared, the statue was already almost completely finished, even though usually sculptures can take months, if not years, to complete.
He's a good hard worker, is Ursus. What's people's problems?
Maybe he has like laser technology that he's able to cut them really quick.
Maybe.
At this point, I was thinking the story could have gone a few different ways yet still.
Yes, yeah. So the Doctor and Rose break into the workshop whilst the sculptor is out, and they're surprised to find a young man called Tyro, who is a slave, and is also acting as a model, which appears to be, a bit of a local thing. As he talks to Rose about posing, the Doctor notes that there's no stone around for Ursus to work on. At which point, Ursus kind of rocks up and starts yelling at him for coming in without his permission. But he tells Rose to return the next day for a sitting, but also forbids the Doctor to come with her. And the Time Lord asks where the stone is, and the sculptor says, "Oh yeah, it's coming. It'll be here in a little while." And also the Doctor notes that the workshop is pristine, there's no dust, and the tools look brand new. And also Ursus is wearing some gloves that don't look like they've been invented as yet. Curious.
Yeah, the clues are adding up.
Well, yes.
So the next day, Rose shows up for her modeling work, and she's given a goblet of wine by Ursus, the sculptor, and she drinks the wine, and then she starts to feel strange, and she has the horrible realization that the wine was drugged, and it's kind of an intense scene. And as she begins to lose consciousness, Ursus places a spear in her hand, which is different from the cornucopia that the statue in the British Museum had. And as her limbs sort of begin to stiffen, she watches from across the room, Ursus uncovers another statue, and it's a completed model of Mercury, but it looks exactly like Tiro, who was the slave they had met from the previous day, and it's already complete, even though he hadn't, started working on it yet. So Rose is like, the horror of this is just dawning on her.
Yeah.
Jacqueline Rayner had said that the statue idea kind of came to her because the idea of one person turning another into an object is a terrifying idea, that kind of loss of agency and objectification. And she said she was inspired by a Dorothy L. Sayers story called The Abominable History of the Man with Copper Fingers, which is about a man turning his girlfriend into a sofa.
Okay, interesting. Because also, I know that the title, The Stone Rose, is intended as a kind of a pun on the Manchester band The Stone Roses, who were, I think, a band that Jacqueline Rayner enjoys. And also, they're one of these bands, even though they might not be as well known outside of the UK, but certainly in the Britpop era, they were one of the kind of like, the big noises. So, yeah. Also, how thick is Rose? I'm sorry, but it's kind of obvious that there's something weird going on, but she just says, "Oh no, we'll go along and just do the modelling," and also as well, the Doctor isn't, because I was expecting, the Doctor's going to pop up and it's like, oh no, because as we're about to find out, Doctor pops along to Ursus's villa to check on her, and he spots this statue of Tyro posing as Mercury, and then he suddenly realises how Ursus can make such lifelike statues so quickly. It's like, hello, have you never been in a Doctor Who story before?
You'd think the Doctor would have pieced it together much earlier than this. Maybe he's still experiencing some post-regenerative trauma or something.
Yeah, maybe.
The 10th Doctor did say in Day of the Doctor that he was so thick, and he was the last one to get the idea. When the three of them are thinking of how to change history, he was the last one to cotton on. So maybe he's just a little slower.
Yeah, maybe. But so he's kind of he's running over to the studio, and meanwhile Ursus is talking to the paralysed Rose, explaining that he prayed to the goddess Fortuna for the ability to sculpt, And despite his stumpy hands, one day his prayers were answered.
And that's what I think the gloves were covering up. Is
Yeah.
He's probably born with some sort of disability or something in his hands.
I don't think we needed that, really. I'm not sure we would have that these days.
Yeah, and it certainly falls into the trope of, villains with physical appearance issues. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's another line that I'll try to remember later where I was like, there is no way that would be in a book in 2018. But anyway, we'll come across that one later.
Well, yeah. Gracilis's estate is pretty large, so the sculpting studio is on one end of it, and so it's taking the Doctor a long time to run over. So he finally gets to the sculpting studio and he finds Ursus loading another statue onto the cart, but before he can see what it is, he's accidentally knocked out by Vanessa, who was aiming for Ursus. She had I don't know if it was a farming implement, like a shovel or something. But then the Doctor wakes up sometime later in a barn, and Vanessa explains that she has no idea where Rose has been taken. But then the Doctor explodes at her, accusing her of lying. And then he, in David Tennant fashion, he rattles off he knows that Vanessa is a non-Roman name that won't be invented until the 1800s by Jonathan Swift. He names a character that, and that she knows of the unbuilt Hadrian's Wall, and then the scrawl of numbers she was writing down earlier was actually a common mathematical formula from the 24th century, and algebra hadn't even been invented yet at this point. So she knows too much.
Yes. So the Doctor demands to know what's happened to Rose, but instead of answering, Vanessa pulls a weapon on him and threatens to shoot if he doesn't let her go away. The Doctor takes her weapon and discovers that it's a remote control from a kind of a vidcast. So it's like threatening one with a TV remote. So Vanessa breaks down and explains how scared she's been since she arrived in Rome after leaving her home on Earth in the year 2375. So a fair old ways away from home. And the Doctor sees her distress and doesn't ask how she arrived, but instead they head off to Ursa's workshop to look for clues. And
so then they check the workshop and find that indeed there's nothing there. It's all cleaned out. So they go back out and follow cart tracks from the sculpting studio until they find a fork in the road. And then the Doctor guesses that Rose will have been taken to Rome, so he takes the path he thinks is the correct way, and then him and Vanessa split up. And when that happened, I was like, that's not a good idea. Don't split up. Don't split up in a Doctor Who story.
Well, he's not the brightest key in the TARDIS, is he?
So then the Doctor travels down that road for some time, but he doesn't find any trace of Rose, and he picked the wrong road too. It's not the road that... The problem with all roads leading to Rome is that all roads also lead away from Rome. So he picked, 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
He's forced to head back to the villa where Vanessa hasn't returned, but he decides against waiting for her, and then he asks Gracilis to help him get to Rome.
So after seeing a horse arrive in Rome early, the Doctor starts investigating shrines to Fortuna, so the goddess that Rose's statue's been based on. And he finds one shrine, and the statue isn't the one that he's looking for, but he suddenly hears a disembodied voice addressing him, and a vial of liquid rolls along the floor towards him, which the voice says will bring the statues back to life. And he tries to find out where the voice is coming from, and is interrupted when Gracilis enters, attempting to warn him of a band of soldiers who have been hunting the Doctor for his earlier horse theft.
So the soldiers seize the Doctor, and instead of getting a trial, the horse he stole at a lodge, because keep in mind, Gracilis's villa is a couple days away, so they had to stop at an inn for a night, and that's where the Doctor stole the horse. And so he doesn't get a trial, but he gets thrown into the jail underneath the Colosseum, where he's going to be executed for sport. And there's kind of scenes where he's talking with the different prisoners, and he's trying to organize a revolt, and he's separated from his sonic screwdriver for a time, but then he picks it up on his way out to the arena.
So one thing I found a bit, shall I say, interesting about this section is rather than learning the names of these people that are with him, he thinks, well, there's 4 of them. There were 4 Beatles. So they'll come John, Paul, George and Ringo.
Which is odd because he doesn't do that for any of the other characters in this story.
No, it does seem a little bit flippant. Yeah, I know the 10th Doctor is one of the criticisms of him that he sometimes does come across a bit like that, but it's just, really? Okay.
Yeah, there were a couple parts in this story where, you can tell that Jacqueline Rayner, I'm not sure if she's seen the Christmas invasion by the time she wrote this, or if it was written prior to that even. There's certainly times where the characterization feels a little off. There's times where it feels spot on, too.
Yeah.
But there are a couple moments where it's just like, I don't know if I could see the 10th Doctor doing that.
Yeah. Whereas this, I can see the 10th Doctor doing this, but it's one of the traits I don't particularly care for.
So the Doctor's, taken to the entrance of the arena, and a series of trapdoors are opened, and starving creatures, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, are released. And this is where our dramatic reading comes in. This is from the audiobook The Stone Rose, read by David Tennant. This is abridged slightly, so it's not going to be the full text, but it's an exciting moment in the story. So here we go.
The arena was huge, bigger than a football pitch. 4 tiers of seating held shouting Romans. A marble wall topped with a fence protecting the nearest spectators from the events occurring in front of them. The Doctor spotted the satisfied face of Lucius Aelius Rufus in the bottom row of seating. Trees had been fixed in the arena floor, and the Doctor ran over to one, not that he expected it would provide much protection from whatever he had to face. A scream of delight from the crowd. A trap door had slammed open at the edge of the arena, followed by another and another. Animals were forced through the gaps. Lions, tigers, bears. Oh my, said the Doctor, as the trap doors slammed shut again. The animals looked lethargic, half-starved. They didn't want to attack, not yet. But the Doctor knew it wouldn't be long. He gave a bow to the crowd. They liked that and applauded. He turned to face Rufus. "Nos moratori te salutamus," he called, although the salute he gave was probably not one the magistrate recognised. A lion was prowling closer. An old male whose once magnificent mane now looked patchy and dull. "You look tired," the Doctor said softly to it. "What life is this for you, the king of the jungle?" A thought struck him. "I think what you really need is a sleep." He pulled out his sonic screwdriver, a few twists, and he pointed it at the approaching lion. There was a faint hum, but only the Doctor knew that the screwdriver was producing another pitch too, a wave of sound inaudible to the human ear, but which the lion would definitely pick up. And sure enough, the lion turned tail and slunk away. A few moments later, it lay down on the ground, an elderly cat by the fireside. There were jeers from the crowd, cheated of blood. "Come on," the Doctor called out. "Did you really want it over so soon? Isn't the anticipation half the pleasure?" Now a huge black bear was lumbering towards him. He raised the sonic screwdriver again, but the bear did not stop. "Ah," said the Doctor. "Make a note. Bears need a different frequency."
All right, and that was the audiobook version of The Stone Rose, which is still available on iTunes and Audible, and if you didn't manage to get it for free with the Radio Times release.
Let's say, just go into any charity shop in the UK.
Find a copy.
Yes.
One other thing I'd mention, too, with the audio version, it turns out Jacqueline Rayner abridged it herself. Which
cool.
kind of makes sense. She had previously adapted, a bunch of books for audio for Big Finish.
Yeah.
And this is a little different in that it wasn't a full cast, but she did talk about the abridging process and how dialogue especially sometimes has to be reworked if it's not natural. For a character to speak for several, paragraphs at a time without interjections from others in the scene. And it sounds like she also did the abridgments for the 2 other books that were released at the same time for those authors from the audio interview. So that was interesting. So the Doctor, as we heard, makes the lion fall asleep with his sonic screwdriver, and there's a bear which the Doctor avoids by climbing into a tree in the arena. And then animal trainers enter armed with flaming torches and tridents. and they're trying to encourage a starving tiger to pursue the doctor. And then in a feat of gymnastic display, keep in mind David Tennant's in a toga while he's doing this, he leaps over the tiger, and the tiger attacks the animal trainers. There's a Roman word for that. They're
bestiari.
Is that
yeah.
So not really kind trainers, but more, the tiger attacks the bestiari instead, and then the doctor, armed with a trident, realizes that there are more animals that are being led into the arena and that he has to get out. But, ominously, the narrative says, nobody's ever escaped from the arena before.
Well, that might be about to change. But yeah, so additional prisoners are released into the arena, their hands bound, and a pack of leopards and additional guards also enter the arena. And the doctor frees the prisoners, who now start a revolt. And we thought we'd had some gymnastics earlier. Now we see the doctor using the trident to pole vault over the arena wall into the stands.
Olympic style.
Yeah. But you can imagine Tennant doing this and just kind of grinning.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
As you would say.
Yes, and talk about it being a fighting hand. So the doctor drops a makeshift rope to the prisoners, who now also begin escaping into the panicking crowd. And the doctor meets up with Gracilis, who reveals that he picked up that mysterious vial of liquid earlier after the doctor had dropped it, which is convenient. And they learned that a new statue by Ursus is about to be unveiled in the Forum. But disappointed to discover the new statue is not of Fortuna. Oh no, it's of Mercury. So this isn't Rose's statue, but this is that of the slave Tyro.
And the doctor's disappointed that it's not Rose, but he realizes he has work to do, so he takes the vial of liquid and he spills a drop of it preciously, on Tyro's statue. And then slowly but surely the stone turns to skin again, and with kind of like bright light, and Tyro comes back to life. So imagine Han coming out of the carbonite. That was the image in my head from Return of the Jedi. So the spectators are all surprised, and then the doctor is able to distract the crowd, giving Gracilis and Tyro, who's Gracilis' slave, time to depart by performing magic tricks with a coin with the crowd. And then the doctor later joins them, and they set off to find all of Ursus's statues in Rome and reviving them before going back to the villa to save Gracilis' son, who's still in the garden. So they managed to revive the other statues, and along the way they come across the TARDIS in one of the back streets, and the doctor's like, "Oh, hey, can we chuck that in the cart and take that with us as well?" And so there's only a couple of drops of the vial left. So the doctor uses one to revive Gracilis' son, but they still can't locate the statue of Rose anywhere, and they only have like a drop of the liquid left.
So the doctor remembers he knows exactly where the statue of Rose is. And it's back in the British Museum in kind of 2006 to 7. So he jumps in the TARDIS and travels back there, where he's welcomed by Mickey. Well, we say welcome. Mickey then suddenly kind of goes, "Oh, you're on your own. Hang on, what's going on?" The doctor pours the remaining sort of liquid over the stone figure, but nothing happens. So Mickey and the doctor fear that Rose is dead, having been a statue for too long, which would be a shock to Billy Piper, killed off in a novel. However, the Doctor realises the statue is wearing both of Rose's earrings, whereas in real life she'd been only wearing one because the other is still on her jacket in the TARDIS.
Yeah, and him and Mickey kind of have an argument, and there's kind of a intense scene where they're both kind of blaming each other for losing Rose, and the Doctor realizes about the earrings. So there's still hope, I guess.
Yes, but seriously, no one's thinking that Rose is going to die in this. So he leaves Mickey and heads back to Rome.
So there was still like maybe a drop or so left in the vial, because we then get the next scene is kind of more from Rose's point of view, where she's waking up. So she realizes that, the doctor managed to revive her, and she's not, dressed as Fortuna, but as Minerva holding a spear. That's why it took the Doctor so long, because he, was looking for the wrong statue.
Mm-hmm.
So he was able to revise Rose with the very last of the liquid in the vial, so it's completely empty now. And then Vanessa also turns up, where she's fills in and explains more about her backstory. And she talks about how her father was a scientist experimenting with artificial reality in the 24th century, and she had been at home watching a vidcast on ancient Rome with her holding the remote at the time. Then the power cut out, and she found a box containing what she thought was a device that her father had been working on. And she didn't open the box, but then she received a phone call or a vidcast call, I guess, from her friend. She then expresses to her friend how she wished she was in ancient Rome, and then everything went dark, and the next thing she knew, when the light went back on, her vision came back, she was actually in Rome. So she wished for it, and then it happened.
Age-old story. I mean...
Be careful what you wish for, right?
Yes. Yeah, and also, I mean, as unlikely as it may seem, because Doctor Who in the 80s had a companion that had been taken through in a time storm from 1980s London to some kind of distant ice planet.
So why not?
Yeah, this is just as unlikely as that, isn't it? Yeah, so the Doctor decides he needs to kind of find Ursus, who he'd been following earlier, and so he's tracing his footsteps. He arrives at a rundown temple where they find Ursus worshipping a woman dressed as Minerva, who Rose thinks could be a real goddess. And as the sculpture reaches to sacrifice a lamb to Minerva, Rose rushes to stop him, but it's too late as she's put into slow motion by Minerva's powers. And the lamb is sacrificed, and soon Minerva has absorbed the spilt blood and the lamb's carcass like a sponge. Yeah, so what is going on?
So we get a little bit of image of the Fendal sort of
you do.
moment thrown in.
Yes.
So the Doctor gets Ursus to admit that it was the goddess Minerva who gave him the ability to make statues. And the Doctor wishes to see Minerva in its true form. And there's like a sound like thunder, and the goddess transforms into a small platypus dragon-like creature who's sitting in a box. Which, at this point, I was like, kind of took a left turn.
And it keeps on going, doesn't
it? And then Ursus lunges at the Time Lord with his knife and manages to turn the Doctor and Vanessa into stone. Not quite sure how he did that part of it. But then he falls on his knife and kills himself. And then Rose... is anguished because both Vanessa and the Doctor are now frozen into stone, and she wishes that she never came to Rome.
Or wishes that he had never come to Rome.
Oh, that's right.
Yes.
Sorry. Rose wishes that the Doctor had never come to Rome. And then there's another sound like lightning, and then the Doctor's gone, leaving Rose to think that something is missing from the room, but she's not able to think what or who was taken away.
Yeah, so Rose tries to remember how she ended up in Rome and reasons, given that her memory's now kind of like chopped to pieces, that she must have been hijacked by aliens, but she wishes she knew how she arrived. And after the dragon-like creature in the box replies, the knowledge all comes flooding back to her, and she realises the Doctor's disappeared. And Rose is horrified as Ursus's body is absorbed by the dragon creature, much like what happened with the lamb. And she asks the creature where the Doctor is, but it denies there was ever a Doctor present. And also explains that it's a genetically engineered neural imagination engine, or GENIE for short. And the creature was a lab experiment of Vanessa's father, and is capable of altering reality and granting wishes. Yep.
So there's a genie in the story.
Yes, yeah.
David Tennant has a very unique genie voice as well.
Oh dear. Is it quite high pitched?
I think he's done it for some of the, he's done a lot of, audio voice work.
Yeah.
One of the things Jacqueline Rayner said is, she said it was a very odd thing to hear David Tennant read her characters out loud. And for the genie character, she kind of imagined a crotchety old man voice in her head, but that David Tennant had a hilarious and fantastic voice, but it was so far distant from what she had in mind.
Yeah, in my mind, I was thinking more high-pitched rather than old man. I wasn't...
Yeah, same.
Yeah. No, I was kind of imagining like the same kind of voice that I hear if I'm reading a Superman comic and Mr. Mixerpickle, or however that name is pronounced. I think that's right.
Mixerpickle.
Yeah, Mixerpickle appears.
Huh. Yeah. Kind of, or I was thinking like Q from Star Trek The Next Generation almost.
Yes, yeah. We are getting a little bit Star Trek-y here, aren't we? And not necessarily the good Star Trek, but kind of like there's that Deep Space Nine episode early on in that first season.
Oh yeah, with if wishes were horses. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I can see it. So Rose realizes that it was the genie that brought Vanessa to Rome, and it was also the genie who gave Ursus his special powers. So after Rose asks, the genie says it cannot bring the doctor back by reversing her previous wish. However, the genie does refill the antidote vial of liquid that the doctor had acquired earlier, and Rose uses it to bring Vanessa back to life. Rose then begins to think about using the genie to get Vanessa back to the right time frame, but then the genie explains to do so, it needs more energy, about 2 million more times than is obtained by consuming one dead human body.
I suppose Rose could try and create some hideous massacre or something, but but she decides not to go down that route. Instead, she asks Jeannie to disguise herself as a monkey, and Rose, Jeannie, and Vanessa make their way back to the villa, and Grassless's wife recognises Rose, which makes Rose realise that despite the wish that the doctor supposedly never arrived, that there's some kind of because like she shouldn't be present here. So time must be trying to kind of like heal the paradox that's been created and just try and fill in the gaps. And Rose and Vanessa join a party that's happening now that Grassless's son's been found. And during the party, the genie begins to grant the many wishes of the other partygoers. And soon people are being moved across the room or disappearing altogether. Like people are changing appearance or gaining possessions. And suddenly one of the young men present is transformed into an emperor. So yeah, everybody is foolishly wishing for things. Yeah.
Oh.
If you're speaking out loud, how many times would you say, "Oh, I wish such and such"?
Very rarely.
Yeah. It's a little bit like in the scene at the end of the Long Game when Adam's mum kind of comes back and says, "Oh, it's just like that," and she clicks her fingers. Like, no, people don't do that all the time.
Unless you're Thanos.
Yeah, well, yeah, unless you're fast. But anyway, we won't speak about that. I'm not seeing that until next weekend.
Yes. So then Rose denies the Emperor's status. She's like, no, you're not the Emperor. And then, yes. But, the memories of everyone else at the party's been changed. So they turn on her like, they're all not zombies, but... Yeah. Brainwashed to think that this guy's the Emperor. So then Rose kind of calls out right before the mob is upon her, wishing that her and Vanessa were somewhere safe. And then there's another sound like thunder, and everything disappears. And then Rose and Vanessa find themselves in like a white void where nothing else can be seen. So very much like the mind robber. And the distortion of perception means that Vanessa and Rose soon get lost where they can't see each other. Although Rose manages to find the genie in this construct. So she has a conversation with the genie where she's asking it questions and learns the parameters of its wish-giving abilities and why the creature can send her and Vanessa between realities but can't send Vanessa home. And then Rose realizes that the genie doesn't actually change reality, so it's not introducing new matter or taking things away. Rather, it merely alters people's perceptions of the matter concerned in the wish that they make. So the doctor's not really gone. The genie's merely altered her own perceptions so that she cannot see him. So she wishes that her and Vanessa were back in Rome, and their perception of reality hadn't been changed. So Rose and Vanessa are teleported back to the shrine, and the doctor's still petrified before her. So she takes out that vial of liquid that she has that's now again almost full, and she uses some of it to bring the doctor back to life. So they're reunited.
Yay!
So Rose saves the day and figures it out.
Yes. So the doctor congratulates her on discovering the truth, but Rose isn't finished yet. She gets the genie to undo all of the wishes back at the party, including the Emperor guy. And then asks why the creature told her it couldn't undo her wish to bring the doctor back. The Time Lord answers her question, saying that the creature didn't want to because it was afraid of him, because it knew that the Doctor had known that genies would do mankind no good, that they would simply use them to kind of kill each other and cause disruption and agony. And humans of the future recognised this and were forced to create a massive paradox where they took the first genie back in time to stop its own creation. But to do this, they needed the energy of the sun, and the creature died as a result. Ah, but it's quite cool that I did quite enjoy, because it goes into quite a bit of detail about the paradox. It's, interesting.
Mm-hmm. And we discovered, too, that the genie in this story, so Vanessa's genie, is that same original genie that was taken back in time, but at a point before the incident occurred. So, as a result, if it were to return to Earth, the entire planet would become overrun once more with, different wishes and contradictions and paradoxes. So the Doctor explains that although the genie cannot go home, Vanessa can, using the TARDIS, they can drop her off. But before they do that, he has to make sure that the vial from earlier ends up in the right hands. So Rose uses a makeshift vocoder from the TARDIS to disguise her voice. I guess maybe the Doctor has a karaoke machine around or something.
Well, I guess the Seventh Doctor might have found it helpful when he was going around manipulating people.
True. Yeah. So Rose is the one who rolls the liquid to the Doctor earlier from the shadows in the shrine.
Yeah. So sometime later, the Doctor and Rose drop Vanessa off home, and the Time Lord warns her to make sure her father never develops another genie. And Rose decides to grant the genie its freedom and wishes it had the ability to not be enslaved, and it could only grant wishes when it wanted to. She then wishes it was somewhere it could be at peace, and with a sound like a thunder, the creature is gone. So isn't it about here where we hear about these Inspire genies as we know them from Arabian Nights tale?
Yeah.
Which then brings me on to one of my favourite bits when the Doctor is sort of talking about how there are various things that humanity has kind of passed away as kind of stories. And it says elves, pixies, gnomes, the Moomins, Chorlton and the Wheelies, SpongeBob SquarePants, they all try to invade you at some point, which are just lovely. I don't know if you've ever seen Chorlton and the Wheelies, or if you No, that is some weird stuff. It was a children's stop motion animation series from the 70s, and they were all kind of based on wheels because the creators couldn't do sort of realistic kind of feet and walking motions. And I showed some of the images to my other half earlier on today, and because she's not from around here, she hadn't grown up with Chorlton and the Wheelies, and she just looked at it and just went, yeah, no, that's some nightmare fuel. And, oh yeah, it really is. You can imagine them invading, and SpongeBob as well. It
reminds me of the what's the from Return to Oz? Weren't there Wheeler characters in that?
Yeah, no, that did actually give me nightmares as a kid. Yeah. Yeah, I think the Return to Oz stuff that is a bit more hardcore than these guys.
What were 80s movies thinking? When you think of Neverending Story and some of those where it's they get pretty grim and dark.
Yeah, though at least for Neverending Story, I still enjoyed that as a kid. I wasn't as freaked out as I was by Return to Oz. I mean, Return to Oz, I just think is even now, there's no way they would approach that tone unless it was Tim Burton. Mm-hmm. as shown by the Dumbo movie that I haven't seen, but yeah.
Did we get to the other bit in the story that you said wouldn't happen today?
Oh no, we've gone past that. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, thank you for reminding me. So there's an odd line where after the Doctor had kind of restored Rose, and she's no longer kind of looking like Minerva, and they're all being all flirty McFlirty with each other, and she sort of says, oh, look at me, I was probably like a Minervagram. And then the Doctor says, any red-blooded or blue-blooded or green-blooded male would love a Minervagram. I was like, Yeah, you wouldn't get that line nowadays, I don't think.
Yeah, it's funny how much culturally, we've shifted in the last 10 or 15 years even.
Yeah.
But then you look also at, the original show and, look how different early 70s was from the early 60s.
Oh yeah.
It's weird to think about, but those kind of shifts happen really quickly.
Yeah, you wouldn't get that line now, would you?
No. So to finish out the story,
Yes.
Rose realizes that there's still something left undone. There's now no statue to be put in the museum in 2,000 years' time. So then the Doctor takes her into another room of the TARDIS, where the stone Rose statue that opens the book and is displayed on the cover is presented. So it turns out the Doctor sculpted it himself. Surprising detour.
Yes.
He explained when he went back to the museum and met Mickey that they picked up the statue. I don't know how they did that without setting off a lot of alarms, and found the Doctor's Gallifreyan signature underneath. So I imagine it would be the same set of characters that is on the Seventh Doctor's business card.
Yeah, maybe.
So maybe that's Skrull. So it turns out the Doctor went back to the Renaissance and made the statue with the guidance of Michelangelo before returning to Rome to follow Ursus and revive Rose. So that felt like a very Fourth Doctor thing to do.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing feels a bit Graham Williams, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah, the tone for sure.
Yeah. So the Doctor and Rose take the statue back to Grassless's villa using the TARDIS, where it takes a place of honour on a now vacant pedestal formerly occupied by the statue of Optatus, his son. So history takes its course, and Jackie now has a photo of the statue on her fridge. And in the distant future, Vanessa sits and wonders if her father will create another genie in order to end her boredom. And elsewhere, the genie is leading its new life and is sitting in a lush field of grass on an alien planet with a guinea pig-like creature, granting its wish for another carrot. Quite lovely. And the genie thinks for a while and decides it's going to be happy here. So, But this is a perception of a carrot, isn't it?
Well, I think it's, for some of the bigger things, it's perception, but like those people were really turned into stone, because otherwise...
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, so I think it can grant little wishes, but not...
But how is it getting this power? Is it killing the other guinea pigs?
I didn't think about that. Maybe there's some nasty like predator on the planet that was eating the guiney pigs that it was
maybe
getting rid of or something.
But anyways, we shall not know, because this is where the story ends.
Yeah, and the little scene at the end with Jackie with the photo in her fridge, that was so sad, because she's sitting down to a little microwave meal for one, wondering when her daughter's going to get back again.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the Stone Rose.
Yeah.
So what I want to know too is, when does the statue break its wrist, or the hand? It must happen sometime after they drop it off with Gracilis in the 2,000 years or so.
Yeah. Well, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, these things can happen.
Mm-hmm. So, what did you think of the book?
Yeah. So I enjoyed it. I mean, it was a bit. So I was saying Graham Williams era. It does remind me a bit of the structure of the Stones of Blood, where you're starting off in one direction, and suddenly everything kind of just, as you said, takes a turn. And I think I did much prefer the Roman period. It's also interesting that it's at times both a Doctor Light and a Companion Light story, in the way that it's been structured.
Yeah, and because you get them separated where one's a statue at different times, and Vanessa kind of acts as like a pseudo companion for the two of them. Yeah,
which is an interesting structure, because like often you have the Doctor and Companion being split up, but it's not normally the case that that they take it in turns to be completely phased out from the narrative. But it was really good how Rome was kind of brought to life, and also as well. I mean, there is definitely some kind of some fun writing in there, sort of like there's decent lines. I mean, there's one particular thing I quite liked. It was quite simple, but when the Doctor was kind of going back to Rome, there's this nice little simple sentence of, and then sometime later, the Doctor arrived in Rome sometime earlier.
Had a nice kind of symmetry to it.
Yeah. There's some lovely little stuff in here. So it's a nice, fun book. I mean, I can see why it seems to be held in high regard by people, but also, I mean, I think I'd probably preferred this than I might have if it'd been on TV. But because I'm not sure that the budget would have necessarily stretched so far for some of the scenes in the Colosseum and things like that. I think there would have been a lot of CGI that would have dated badly, particularly with the genie. But yeah, what do you make of it?
I liked 3/4 of the book. I liked the stuff in the modern day. I thought Rose and Mickey and Jackie, like their characterizations were spot on. Jacqueline Rayner certainly had the benefit of the first, Eccleston season having aired by then to kind of get their characters down. I think it's really well written in terms of readability, but the book kind of lost me for the last quarter or so with after the genie was introduced, just in terms of the multiple realities and like written and rewritten. And in terms of the Doctor's characterization, it felt close, but parts of it did feel a little bit off. It certainly helped, listening to the abridged version, because David Tennant reading the words, he makes it sound like the Doctor, even if certain phrases or whatever did feel a little bit more kind of Eccleston Doctor to me. In the interview, she mentions that each Doctor kind of has their own unique challenges, and she said she found the 9th Doctor was easier to write for compared to the 10th, kind of speaking about her previous book, Winner Takes All, because Chris Eccleston has such a strong kind of unique voice already. And she said for the 10th Doctor, the difference came more from David Tennant's performance. Well, the character remained relatively the same on the page, so it was more different because she didn't have the benefit of seeing how he approached the role. So, and she even said in the interview there were times where she found herself kind of lapsing into more 9th Doctor speak, and I think there's still a few moments of that in the narrative. So I was going to give this an 8 out of 10 kind of as I was reading it, because it was fun, it was light in parts, it addressed some social issues, but I really didn't like the genie storyline at all. I'm just not a fan of like Q-like beings where things are getting rewritten and blinked out of existence. She even mentioned in the interview that she said she doesn't pre-plan her book with all its twists and turns. She kind of starts with an idea, see where it takes you, and then it involves a rework, because if the story kind of veers off in another direction, she has to go back and incorporate those later ideas into the earlier narrative. So yeah, the last quarter or so I didn't like, so I was going to give it an 8 out of 10, but with the genie thing, I think it's a 7 out of 10 for me.
I think it's the same for me, actually. 7. I mean, it's let down, I think, by the genie stuff that just isn't quite to my liking. However, as I say, I can see why this is popular. And it's well written, and it could easily be a TV episode just with a bigger budget. It's definitely entertaining. So I mean, I think it's worth reading, and also it's nice experience a 10th Doctor story where you're not having David Tennant gurning all over the place. Or at least you can put the gurning to the level that you find socially acceptable.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was I would definitely say it's worth reading. It's just be prepared for the for it to kind of go off the rails for the last quarter or so, but I did like it.
It's kind of fun when Rose is realizing that the word wish is causing lots of problems, and she starts sort of like referring to it as the W word, and that's so there is some fun to be had even even when, as you say, like the narrative is frantically derailing.
The premise of this book just feels really familiar. It just reminds me of, there's a scene in Silver Nemesis where Ace has a painting hanging in Windsor Castle, and it's like taking that moment but making a whole book out of it.
At least it's not predictable.
That's true. Just when I thought I had the story figured out, it did a few left or right turns.
So I mean, you can't accuse it being dull. Even if it does rely on the Doctor and Rose being quite thick early on.
So that's the Stone Rose. Shall we go on to listener feedback?
Yes, let's.
Listen.
So we don't have any email this month. You can email us at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com, and we could be reading your words out loud this very moment. So tell us your thoughts on this or any other Doctor Who book, and we might read your opinions out on the show. So send us an email. Let us know what you think. Did you really enjoy the Stone Rose? Were there things you disagreed with? Happy to hear about it. Chris, how about on the Facebook side?
So we've had a usual array of likes. Don't have any any comments or anything. I haven't had a chance to have a look on iTunes just yet to see if we've had any fresh reviews. But yeah, do please on iTunes, please write on and sort of say nice things, especially give a 5-star review or something starry like that. Would be good because that helps other people find us, which is good. So you can share the love.
Yeah,
we have had an iTunes review actually.
Oh.
Yeah, so Matt and Chris clearly love Doctor Who in all guises. And instead of jumping on the TV bandwagon, they've chosen to channel their passion into spreading the word of the books.
We can do both.
Yes. It's not a binary choice. But, yes.
Cool. Well, thank you for that review.
Yes.
On the Twitter side, thanks to all our new followers on there. You can follow us at ANDWBC Podcast. Keep an eye on the Twitter feed this month to make sure you don't miss uploads of batches of the original Doctor Who Book Club podcast. We'll be reposting those sometime in the second half of May. Also on Twitter, Laurel, a.k.a. Wishing for a TARDIS, writes that she was inspired by our compelling discussion in More Short Trips about the novelization of The Daleks by David Whittaker and how it has a different opening sequence from An Unearthly Child, so she decided to buy it. And it's her very first Doctor Who novel she's purchased. She said she's on her way to building a Doctor Who book collection, and every journey begins with the first step, or addiction, if you buy them all. It's a great place to start, and yeah, that was the first ever Doctor Who book published in any form, fiction or nonfiction, and was released a few weeks before the show's first anniversary, way back on November 12th, 1964. So that's pretty cool. That book was republished in hardcover a few years ago along with the Zarbi and Crusaders novelizations.
Yes, yeah.
So it should be pretty easy to find, or in its target form as well, in charity shops and such.
Yeah.
Willow Minton chimed in and said that she picked up the Daleks from the library today, and Richard Smith said it was his first Doctor Who book too back in 1975, and John Porter added that it was a good book to start with. There was also some discussion on Twitter about the first ever full-length Doctor Who novels. So Turlough and the Earthlink Dilemma and Harry Sullivan's War, which were both published in 1986.
Yes.
And I say they're the first if you exclude the annuals and short stories like The Invasion from Space and the K9 Kids book and stuff.
Yeah.
Incidentally, friend of the show, Paul Scoons, keeps a great website dedicated to collecting the annuals, so check that out. Michael Seeley writes in to say that both were rather exciting releases back in the day, speaking about Turlough and the Harry books. He said, it seems strange reading a Doctor Who book without the Doctor, but they also were published alongside a novelization at the time. He said the Turlough book was tough going to get through at times, but the Harry book was a delight, if a little too energetic. Flatcap Hoovian adds that they've never heard of these books, but they're going for £10 to £20 each now, which isn't too bad.
Yeah.
And he's pretty interested in reading these rather obscure novels someday. I haven't read either of them, but I think they'd make a good pairing for a book club pick someday. I think they're short enough where we could do both in a single month if we wanted to. Sometime down the line.
Yeah, I've not read the Turlough one, but I did read the Harry Sullivan one. And as I was discussing with friend of the podcast, Lucas, on his Facebook bit of the episodes of Death, for a while, I used to say that was my favourite book ever. I was 12. I hadn't read a lot of other books. And I think that my opinion may change.
I'm looking at the Turlough one right now, and it looks like they reused the space dock from the Star Trek movies series on the cover.
Yeah. Well, the Harry Sullivan one's written by Ian Marter. And he basically writes a James Bond plot, from what I recall. And it was good fun. That I definitely remember. But yeah, and so I remember in a French lesson having to sort of write what your favourite book was, and I sort of said, "J'aime beaucoup le livre Harry Sullivan's War."
Oh, well, that's not going to be our book pick for next month.
No.
But,
so what is? What is? Do tell.
I wanted to revisit something that I've read previously as a teenager from the New Adventure range. something with Benny and Ace. Also, I noticed that we haven't yet read anything from the most prolific Doctor Who author of all time. So you can guess who that is. So for June, we're going to be reading a Terrance Dicks book featuring the Seventh Doctor and vampires. So it's Blood Harvest by Terrance Dicks.
Excellent.
This wasn't picked by the original podcasts because I know they've done a lot of new and missing adventure reviews, so I'm very much looking forward to reading it. And it also gives me an excuse to watch the remastered State of Decay in high definition from the recent Season 18 box sets on Blu-ray.
Yeah. And also the Untouchables. Should you wish. But yeah, no, I am very much looking forward to it. This is another Doctor Who book that I once owned 2 copies of. But that was just because we were on holiday in Canada and Mum saw a whole host of new adventures quite cheap. And she bought that and Theatre of War. That Theatre of War fortunately wasn't a duplicate, but yeah, Blood Harvest was. And so I then resold it at my local sort of like sci-fi comic / bookshop. I can't remember what I then went on to buy. I think it was Shadow Mind. Yeah, so I think that's a fair transaction.
So Blood Harvest for June.
Yeah, and you can also read what the bookworm people have to think about it if you so wish to.
I'm probably going to pick that up, but I'm on the fence about reading it because I also trying not to like color my opinions of like future books too. But I imagine like just reading it all in one go would be fun and. Yeah, I'd probably forget about half of it anyway. So
yeah, that's the approach that I've taken. So I'm just kind of powering through it. But yeah, very very much enjoying it.
Cool. Well, until next month, I've been Matt in Minnesota,
Chris in South London. Happy reading.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song, Doctor Who Theme, Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. You can support the show by leaving us a rating and review on iTunes. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
The little creature clacked its beak. "I am a genie," it said. Rose gaped. "A genie?" "Indeed, a genetically engineered neural imagination engine." Rose carefully dropped £3 coins into the collecting box at the entrance to the British Museum. Her mum tutted. "What do you want to go and do that for? You don't have to pay." "It's a donation," Rose pointed out. "They suggest you make one. That's only for people who haven't been dragged here against their wills on a Sunday morning."